think since 2014, Next Energy Capital has been absolutely committed to protecting, conserving and enhancing natural ecosystems around its solar and energy storage assets. I think with long-term ownership and stewardship of our sites, I think we are uniquely positioned to maximise those positive impacts on both people and nature throughout the solar asset lifecycle.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. I'm joined by Next Energy Capital Group Lead for Nature, Hing-Ken Lee. Lee, very good to meet you. Could you start by telling us a bit about Next Energy Group and its mission? Then as the Group Nature Lead, could you share a bit about your background and what your role entails?
Sure, thanks Stephen, and thanks for having me. Next Energy Group is a renewable energy company on a mission to create a more sustainable future by leading the transition to clean energy. It operates several subsidiaries, including Next Energy Capital, which is a globally recognised investment manager, specialising in solar sector. We've got assets under management of around 4.4 billion. We oversee multiple funds, including Next Energy Solar Fund, which is listed on the main London Stock Exchange and operates under the ticker of NESF. And as you say, I'm the Group Nature Lead with over 20 years of experience in the environmental sector, and I have the pleasure of supporting nature and natural capital integration across the group's operations.
So Next Energy Group recently unveiled a standalone nature strategy. For those unfamiliar, what exactly is a nature strategy and what does it aim to achieve?
Yeah, so through our operational dependencies, nature loss and ecosystem degradation represents economic and social risks. So, for example, we rely on natural resources and commodities to build our renewable infrastructure, and Next Energy Group's nature strategy seeks to address these challenges head on. So our strategy outlines an approach for nature and provides nature targets designed to avoid, prioritise and manage nature-related risks. So equally important is that it also supports the identification of opportunities where we're able to create meaningful impact and capture value from mechanisms in the evolving nature and natural capital markets, for instance. And commitments outlined in the strategy are aligned with the acronym SOUP of emerging global standards, such as the Task Force for Nature-Related Financial Disclosures, TNFD, the Science Based Targets Network, which is SBTN, and also the landmark international agreements that is the Global Biodiversity Framework.
Lee, why is it important for a company like Next Energy Group to have a dedicated nature strategy? What challenges or opportunities does it address?
So in terms of challenges, the solar industry has faced some localized criticism for its impacts on nature. And we have a duty and responsibility to provide transparency and a science-led evidence-backed approach that shows how our assets and portfolios and funds can contribute positively to nature. Aligning with ESG-focused investors and our emerging global standards, I think it's through our transparency we're then able to support our own investors prepare for future nature-related disclosures, as well as steward the entire value chain towards nature recovery. Now, the opportunities coming out of the strategy means that we can proactively address and prioritize nature-related risks to enhance the financial resilience of our investments. And we can demonstrate and drive that dual action on climate and nature, not only through the clean energy that we generate, but also through biodiversity enhancement and restoration alongside our assets. And I think in addition, we can start to explore natural capital and nature positive market opportunities where we can really drive meaningful impact and target key exposure and dependencies where these are identified in our materiality assessment.
You mentioned the commitments outlined in the nature strategy. Can you walk us through the key targets and how you plan to measure progress?
Sure. Our ambitions are focused around four key main themes, and in a nutshell, they are no conversion of natural ecosystems, which is a target to help us avoid land use change and the conversion of natural land. There's also responsible land use target, where this commitment helps us to prioritize assets where specific intervention and resilience is needed, which helps us to become more strategic in our approach to land management. And it also helps us to co-locate other land use regimes with energy generation, such as the integration of agriculture, maybe through agrivoltaics, for instance. We've also got a nature restoration target, a target to explore the nature restoration both on our solar sites and outside of them in similar eco-regions. And this encourages us to consider large-scale opportunities for creating value, again, supporting nature recovery, maybe through natural capital markets as well. And then finally, we've got a supply chain transparency target, and this recognizes that upstream environmental impact that perhaps procurement could drive, and it pushes us to improve that value chain and stewardship of high impact commodities.
Are other players in the renewable sector adopting similar strategies, or is Next Energy Group setting a new precedent here?
We're super excited to see that there's lots of financial institutions and renewable energy players join the TNFD and begin to better understand their relationship and impacts on nature. And momentum and adoption needs to happen for us to reverse that downward trend of nature loss. But I think our strategy, is at the very forefront of the market. Personally, I've not seen many of our peer group publish a similar evidence-based, science-led strategy with this level of commitment and ambition. But look, we're really proud to provide stakeholders and peers with a pioneering example of how we can really take responsibility for nature-related topics in particularly the renewable infrastructure asset class.
Next Energy Capital, that's the investment arm of the group, is an early adopter of the TNFD framework. Can you explain what TNFD is and how it integrates with your nature strategy?
Sure. TNFD, or the Task Force for Nature-Related Financial Disclosures, is a global initiative to help companies and financial institutions incorporate nature into their decision-making. The initiative aims to provide consistency and comparability, but also the capacity to benchmark performance on nature-related materiality for financial market participants and other key stakeholders. So aligning our nature strategy with this framework allows us to prepare to disclose nature-related topics through the recommendations of TNFD, and to also set those ambitious targets and comparable science-based targets for nature, allowing these prescriptive requirements from SBTN and TNFD. And I guess being early adopters of TNFD, we're currently in the thick of reporting season as we speak. And I guess, as I mentioned previously, it ensures that we're in a position to also support our own investors with their own TNFD disclosures, understanding that transparency is required across the whole value chain for this to work.
Investing in Next Energy Solar Fund or Next Energy Capital's private funds already contributes to climate mitigation through clean energy. Does the nature strategy introduce additional ESG benefits for investors?
In short, yes. I think since 2014, Next Energy Capital has been absolutely committed to protecting, conserving and enhancing natural ecosystems around its solar and energy storage assets. I think with long-term ownership and stewardship of our sites, I think we are uniquely positioned to maximise those positive impacts on both people and nature throughout the solar asset lifecycle. Our nature strategy just helps formalise the way in which we consider nature and natural capital across our operations, which is really strengthened by these frameworks that ensures a science-based, evidence-driven approach is adopted. And one example of how the nature strategy drives additional ESG benefit is by the way in which we can prioritise and target specific risk exposure and dependencies through dual land use practices. And these practices unlock added value such as enhanced biodiversity and land use efficiency, where we can combine solar with agriculture, for instance, to support ecosystems and improve soil health or support food security. We can also generate community and economic benefits where dual use land regimes can create jobs and support local farmers, and strengthen community relations, which supports our social license to operate. And I think importantly, the key benefit comes with improving resilience and long-term value Our strategic approach to land management can reduce operational risk and enhance that long-term asset value, supporting sustainable governance. And I think it in turn supports our returns as well.
Lee, you've spoken about natural capital opportunities, and we're seeing growing interest in nature as an asset class from your industry peers. Does this strategy signal a direct investment in nature itself?
Sure, in a way. Next Energy Capital remains focused on its core mission, and that's delivering stable returns as a leading specialist solar plus investor. And by plus, we mean, storage and other technologies. At the same time, we recognise our responsibility and, of course, the urgency to support nature recovery, especially given our direct relationship and dependencies that we have with land. And when it aligns with our investment strategy, I think we will absolutely seek out those opportunities that properly value and protect natural capital. And this includes exploring ways to monetize biodiversity gains through nature-based credits and developing nature-based solutions within our assets and portfolios. And I think by doing so, we can unlock new financial value while redirecting capital towards solutions that benefit nature. And because protecting and restoring nature is absolutely essential on the path to net zero, but also it's very much interconnected and integral to our mission.
Well, Lee, I hope you'll keep us updated on your nature strategy. Thank you very much for speaking with us today.
Thanks for having me.
That's Next Energy Capital Group Lead for Nature, Hing Kin Lee.